Welcome. Thanks for joining us today for our final webinar of our Stream Health and Stormwater series. Just a reminder that we're recording the webinar today, and this, along with the rest of the webinars in the series, will be posted to our website so you can review anytime in the future. We'll be addressing questions at the end of our presentation, so if you have a question, just type it in the chat box, and our coworker Riley will make sure they get addressed. My name is Amy Miller, and I have with me today my coworker Rebecca Zazis, and we work in the watershed program at ACCD. Just a little recap. So far in this series, we've explored many topics related to stream health and stormwater. We've defined stream health and how streams move and shape themselves. We've looked at ways to evaluate the physical, chemical, and biological properties of streams to determine stream health. We've talked about how we as humans have changed and impacted stream health from the way we developed the land, built infrastructure, to our agricultural practices. We've looked at specific pollutants like sediment, nutrients, and stormwater, and how they impact the aquatic ecosystem. And finally, this last week of the series, we're focused on solutions. Tuesday's webinar focused on solutions for municipalities to take to improve stream health and the challenges they face while doing so. And through our final part of the series today, we'll look at how residents can shift their focus of stream health and stormwater to see it as a resource instead of a problem. We'll look at two specific strategies that we can implement on our own property that we can really improve and become a critical part of our ecosystem. We'll look at ways to filter and reduce pollutants, as well as ways to slow and reduce the volume of stormwater coming off of your property. Specifically, we'll talk about rain barrels, rain gardens, lawn care and car maintenance, and riparian buffers and native plantings. Following this webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email with some resources so you can take what you learned here today in the rest of the series and either read more about it and be able to call somebody to help you take it to the next level. The follow-up email will also contain a survey about stream health and stormwater series. So please let us know what you thought of the sessions you attended, which topics we can provide more in-depth information on, and any other topics you'd be interested in learning about. Since we only have a bit of time today, let's get started. We've talked about our connection to water in our first session. We need water to drink and to produce our food. For many of us, our jobs are directly tied to water. But if we think about how we as humans have dealt with water, for a while, we've had the mindset that we need to put it in a pipe and ship it off as fast and as soon as possible. But as we know now, that creates flash flooding downstream. It impacts our groundwater cycles, and it teaches us to fear water. But think about some of those favorite vacation spots. Mine is a mountain lake that we can go fishing at. Many love beaches or along the ocean. Waterfalls are popular. We seek out water to enjoy and appreciate, but why don't we do this on our own property? My challenge to you at the end of this is to go out and look at your yard and see if you're piping water out as soon as it lands, and if there's any ways you can really appreciate water more. But before we get too into this, we should really take a look at how much water we're talking about. So it's math time again. How much water do you think comes off your roof during a half-inch rain event? So go ahead and type in an answer in the comment box if anybody has any guesses. Or if maybe you figured this out before. So if we take it, for example, this house here, it's a large house at 2,000 square feet, an old Victorian home in Highland Park. During a half-inch rain event, 600 gallons come off the roof. That's a lot of water. So how did we get that number? This equation is how you figure out how much water is coming off any given surface, including your roof. So if you take the square footage and multiply that by the inches of rain, and then multiply that by a conversion factor, which is multiplied by a runoff coefficient. And don't worry if you don't get all this math, we'll be sending follow-up resources at the end of the presentation. So if it's a rooftop, the runoff coefficient is around 95 to 98%. So it's close to 1, and we can use 1. And we don't really need that runoff coefficient because anything times 1 is 1. But if you're trying to figure out how much water is coming off of your lawn, then the runoff coefficient is more important, as some water will be held by the turf and some might infiltrate into the ground. So the runoff coefficient for lawn varies due to soil conditions, but we can estimate it at 70 to 80%, or 0.7 to 0.8. If you don't know the size of your roof, you can go to the Allegheny County Real Estate website and type in your home address and click on the Image tab, and you'll see a picture of your house along with the square footage. Since the first example was a large house, here's a smaller example of a row house just for comparison. The total roof area of this home is 880 square feet. So during a half-inch rain, you're looking at 260 gallons of water. It's still considerable, so how do we embrace this abundance of water? So my favorite way to appreciate water in your yard is in a rain garden. What is a rain garden? There's a lot of info on this sign, but from the graphic you can see a bowl-shaped garden that has water piped into it from a roof or other impermeable surface like your yard or driveway. And given that it's a garden, plants are important, but they have a key role that we'll discuss later. They're not just to make it pretty. Key distinction, rain gardens are not ponds. Ponds hold water, often using an impermeable liner. Rain gardens are built specifically to allow water to soak into the ground. By allowing infiltration, we restore groundwater recharge. We slow water down in an effort to reduce flash flooding, and we reduce the strain on our region's stormwater systems. Plus, we prevent stormwater from picking up pollutants like litter, oil, pesticides, dog waste, etc., as it travels across the ground. Plus, ponds are always full, so they don't have the capacity to hold more water when it rains. With a rain garden, you can stand out in the rain and watch it fill up. Here are some main components of a rain garden. Look at this shape. Rain gardens are bowls. They don't have to be perfectly round, but they should be lower in the middle with berms that are higher than nearby ground. The bottom of the rain garden should be flat. You don't want water creating a path through the rain garden, but rather rise up in the rain garden evenly. Conveyance is important and a great way to get creative. You can do a stone swale channel, lining it with pond liner close to the house. You can pipe it, even hiding the pipe underground. And you can even allow water to sheet flow, but be careful as water does erode when it's coming out of a pipe. A critical point to consider is water flows downhill. So conveyance systems need to slope downward. It doesn't have to be steep. A 1% gradient is more than plenty. Just make sure that the water goes where you want it to. Rain gardens are all year round, which if you live somewhere it gets cold is crucial. Things like rain barrels only last 3 seasons around here, but we'll talk more about that later. Plus, being 4 seasons, you can provide habitat to birds and other wildlife all year long. As I alluded to earlier, plants are such a huge part of rain gardens. They are special plants though. If you take a look at your stream bank in a natural area, these are the plants that make good rain garden plants. They can withstand the streams getting high, but can also survive during the middle of summer when the stream is low and they're not getting the same amount of water. This is a well-adapted plant. So for those plants that are shown here, Some of those plants are shown here, as they come in such a variety of shapes and colors, from irises to dogwoods, which is a shrub, to trees, which aren't shown here, but there are a lot of them, to crucial pollinators like this milkweed. The milkweed is critical food for the monarch butterfly, as one example. But here's the story under the surface. Plants increase the permeability of soil. They help water go down. Many of us are well aware, if we dug into our yards, that clay is extremely prevalent in southwestern PA. And turf grass or our lawns don't do anything to combat that. But our native plants that we put in rain gardens have amazing root systems. Take a look at the blue stem and the switchgrass, for example. These are both used in rain gardens, and their root systems are huge. I can just visualize following the roots down to the ground. Short story, we installed a rain garden and it was only getting sheet flow from a lawn and it wouldn't drain. A lot of the drainage, we added a lot of drainage systems in the soil, like subsurface tanks and gravel, but it still wasn't draining. So we let the winter pass and figured we'd take a look at it in the spring, which we delayed a bit. And after that delay, some of the plants had established better and there was no more ponding. It's not the only component of rain gardens, but as plants grow year after year, they make rain gardens stronger. And you can't say that about a French drain that clogs or a pipe that cracks. This is the house that we looked at during the first math problem, the large Victorian house in Highland Park. They ended up getting 3 rain gardens, 2 in their front yard and 1 in their backyard, and the 4th downspout goes to 2 rain barrels. It really changed the look of their front yard, all while embracing water. Rain gardens can be super simple, but there are some precautions you want to take while building them. You want to make sure you're not too close to your home's foundation. The goal is not to flood your house or your neighbor's house. You don't want to put it right behind a retaining wall or at the toe or the bottom of a really steep slope, as this could cause a landslide. You also want to make sure you know where your utilities are. You don't want to hit a pipe while you're digging for your rain garden. So make sure you do your research. And listening to this half-an-hour webinar is not enough. So here are some resources you can look at. We've put together a local homeowner's guide to stormwater, which is linked on our website. There are several local organizations, such as Three Rivers Rain Garden Alliance, and while they're not super active, they still have a website with great information. Stormworks is a local group that installs rain gardens, and you can have a consultation with them about locations on your property for rain gardens. There's also some other user guides from other areas, like the Vermont Rain Garden Manual, but you'll want to be careful as we are in a different region, so the plants listed in those documents could vary, as well as the ordinances listed by the municipalities. Some other resources include the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District. They have a lot of information on their website, and Penn State Extension has resources specifically around plants. So now that we see how rain gardens can beautify your yard, it makes us appreciate water a bit more. So what are other ways? A great way to capture the water so you can use it when it's not raining is a rain barrel. Rain barrels come in all shapes and sizes. You can buy fancy high-end ones or make them yourself. But no matter what, there's a few key components that you must have to make them work and work safely. And those components are seen on the screen. Oop. First, you need a water source. The downspout is perfect since it takes water from a large area like your roof and concentrates it to a single point, which can be used for collection. A screen serves a few purposes. It keeps leaves and twigs out of the barrel. Those will start to stink things up if they get in there and start to decay. The screen will also keep the mosquitoes out. Make sure it's small enough screen though, at 1/16 of an inch is recommended. A faucet, you need some way to get the water out of the barrel. So what's the point of capturing the water if you can't get to it? and an attached hose to help get that water where you want it. The raised platform in the photo is often recommended. The reason is to get a bit more pressure to move the water out of the barrel. Unless you hook up an electric pump to the barrel, the water coming out is at about 1 to 2 pounds per square inch. Just for reference, the water coming out of your house sink is typically 40 pounds per square inch. The difference is because most barrels are only relying on gravity. So raising the barrel up a bit gives you a bit more gravity to work in your favor. But you don't want to overdo this, so be careful. Don't want to overdo raising the barrel, and you want to be careful of the material you use because water is heavy. 1 gallon of water is over 8 pounds, so if you have a 100-gallon barrel, you're looking at close to 900 pounds. So putting that on a wooden platform that's exposed to rain and potentially rotting away over the years can lead to disaster. So consider 1 row of cinder blocks is a good, safe alternative. And the most critical and often overlooked part of the barrel is the overflow. Remember back to our math problem. During that ½ inch of rain, we were getting either 260 to 800 gallons of water off our roof. Now, depending on how many downspouts will have an impact on how much water is getting into your barrel. If you have a 50-gallon barrel, you're going to overflow pretty quickly. So water has to be able to get out and get somewhere that is not up against your home or your neighbor's foundation. The overflow is your tool to help you do that. So where the overflow goes is important, and how big it is important. If you look at the size of your downspout, which is typically 2 to 3 inches, if you have a small 1/4 inch overflow, that's going to be too small. So, which means it's going to spray out the top and down the barrel against your home's foundation. So make your overflow an adequate size. So now we know the important parts of the rain barrel, we can look at our rain barrel options and make sure they all work. You can see many of those components in these 3 rain barrels. The Hydra and the Ivy are 2 models, and they both have the downspout bringing in water, overflow to get the water away, and spigots to be able to use the water. What you can't see is the filter screen on top of the barrel, which I promise you is there. And they both have a solid platform with good stability. The homemade barrel was found on Etsy, also has some of the components. It has the spigot, it has the downspout bringing water to the barrel. It actually has the downspout and overflow in one contraption, if you can see there. When the barrel fills up, that hose is connected to the barrel, also fills up, so water just backs up and then goes back out down the downspout when it overflows. And the screen here would have to be in the gutter, or you're going to have to clean a lot of leaves out at the connection point to the downspout. But barrels come in different shapes, colors, and sizes for personal preference. Just do your research and make sure they have everything you need, those components that we talked about. You can also make your own rain barrel. There are plenty of kits out there to help you do that. In addition to the rain barrel itself, how you get the water from the downspout to the barrel is important. This is called a diverter, and there are different options. We already talked about the one that the Etsy barrel uses. The other 2 barrels, we're using this Y-shaped downspout addition. The switch in the Y allows you to turn off the barrel in the winter or other times as needed. If rain barrels are full of water and it freezes, it'll crack the plastic barrel. So this feature allows you to shut off the barrels in winter to prevent that cracking. Both diverters are useful in different situations, so it's just a matter of knowing what you need for your own home. And again, there are additional resources available. These are just a few to help you get started. Again, Stormwater sells, installs, and maintains rain barrels. If you prefer to have the experts do it, if you're more of a DIYer, then Rain Harvest Systems might be useful to you. They're an online supplier, but they have great customer service to help you find what you need. for different situations. Just remember, no matter what rain barrel type you use, remember a few key facts. Don't drink the water. It's not potable. Remember to watch where you place your overflow and to make sure your barrel is ready for winter. Be careful of the size of your barrel and remember how much water can come off your roof and then plan accordingly. And lastly, remember the barrel can only capture water if it's empty. So if rain is coming, consider draining the barrel to capture the rain and lessen the strain on storm sewer systems and streams. A full barrel doesn't capture any rain.
Okay, Rebecca here. Let's move on to lawns. We mentioned in a previous webinar that there are over 40 million acres of lawn in the US. Too much lawn presents two problems. Turfgrass does not provide much support in slowing and storing stormwater runoff, and the application of fertilizers can be picked up by stormwater runoff, leading to nitrogen and phosphorus pollution in streams. However, there are a few ways to make your lawn more stormwater friendly and can result in cost savings. Set mower height to 3 inches or higher. The taller grass slows the rate of runoff and will produce a deeper and denser root system. Denser roots will absorb more water, reducing lawn runoff and preventing erosion. Deeper roots have access to more water stored in the ground and can reduce irrigation need during droughts. Denser roots can also suppress weeds from growing up around them. Leave grass clippings and chopped leaves on your lawn. A mulch mower is ideal for spreading clippings on your lawn. The clippings decompose quickly, provide important nutrients for your lawn, and settle to create an organic layer on the soil that encourages stormwater infiltration. Doing this can significantly reduce or eliminate the need and cost of nitrogen fertilizers. Keep clippings and chopped leaves out of streams, off the street, and out of storm drains. If mulching is not possible, bag the clippings and store them in a compost area where the organic material can be used as a fertilizer at a later date. Blowing them on the street or into storm drains leads the clippings directly to local streams, where they decompose and act as a source of pollutants by increasing nitrogen to unsafe levels for fish and other aquatic life. If you don't have any areas on your property to store yard clippings, check out if your community offers a municipal green waste pickup. Changing the way we water can help with both conservation and reduce the potential for contaminants to enter our streams. Established lawns only need about 1 inch of water per week, including rainfall. So if you have to water more thoroughly and less often. A thorough soaking just once a week should suffice. Make sure sprinklers are not directed at paved surfaces and check the weather forecast. If you have automatic sprinklers, be sure they aren't programmed to come on after the rain. Avoid watering in the heat of day. Water early in the morning or in the evening to minimize water loss due to evaporation. Finally, fertilizer. Do you need it? If so, what, where, when, and how much? The answers to those questions lie in a soil test. Penn State Extension is one place you can submit a soil sample for testing. The website has directions for sampling and submission. There is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to fertilizer. Needs vary drastically based on soil texture, pH levels, and nutrient levels. Identifying these needs will reduce unnecessary applications, create a healthier lawn faster, and reduce long-term costs. Fertilizer should only be applied during the growing season, after grass begins growing in March and ends prior to October. Fertilizing during the dormant season, when root systems are less active, increases the risk of runoff, getting into streams and groundwater. You should also check the weather. Do not fertilize directly before a rain event, because most will wash off in stormwater runoff. Do not use fertilizer or pesticides within 20 to 30 feet of a stream. Keeping this distance will help keep chemicals out of the stream, which leads us to our next topic. There are a large number of homeowners in southwestern Pennsylvania that have streams in their yards. You have a huge role to play in protecting and improving streams. What can homeowners do? One suggestion, don't mow up to the edge of the stream. Riparian, which means relating to or situated on the banks of a river. The riparian buffer is the area alongside a river, stream, pond, lake, or wetland that provides protection. We buffer it with plants, trees, shrubs, native grasses, and perennials. Those plants will do a number of things. They'll filter pollutants that might come from upstream, they hold the soil in place with their root system, and they cool the stream. Those trees will actually shade the stream. Those trees will also provide food for the critters that live in the stream, and fallen branches are important for habitat and egg laying. While this advice is great for people that live near streams, it's also good advice for anyone that lives in a watershed. Hint, that's everybody. Everybody lives in a watershed. Lawns are not great buffers for pollutants in soil. Native perennials and trees and shrubs do a much better job. So everyone can replace some of their lawn with plantings. It's better for the streams and for wildlife. If you are a streamside property owner, there are many options to better steward the stream and meet your preferences and budget. To begin, you can simply stop mowing up to the stream and letting a meadow come in, and you can choose to mow it a few times a year to keep it at a managed level you're comfortable with. Live sticking trees, which can also be free if you can get to a willow tree or other specific species of water-loving trees, or they can be purchased on the cheap. Same with bare rootstock. You can buy baby trees for $1 each. We will follow up with information on backyard buffers in our email. Here's a photo from a long 9-mile run in Frick Park. The stream had gone through a major restoration in 2006. Between 2006 and 2019, this section lost many of the large boulders that were reinforcing the banks. With the boulders gone, the only thing holding the bank in place at this location was a stand of willows. While the power of water is incredible, the power in vegetation is also pretty impressive. What does your stream like? Could it use some plants to protect its banks and buffer it from the uphill environment? To transform your own yard, there's lots of local nurseries and landscape crews that can help. Make sure you ask if they know about native plants, or check out FIP's website for a list of sustainable land care accredited organizations. These are businesses that have committed to reducing their environmental impact. We also recommended every opportunity to check out your local watershed group to get involved with volunteer opportunities and to learn about more issues impacting your watershed. If you do not have a watershed group in your area, get in touch with us and we can talk about what the process is to form one. Either way, we're here to help. We're here to help you connect with a watershed group. The Penn State Extension Master Watershed Steward Program here in Allegheny County is a great avenue to learn about watershed issues, how to communicate with the public, and to lead projects. We will put an info link in the program in our follow-up resources email. Finally, we should mention car care and maintenance. Washing your car can be detrimental to streams. While the soap from car washing seems innocent, it contains greasy, sudsy grime that actually pollutes waterways with detergents, heavy metals, and other chemicals harmful to fish and wildlife. The most simple solution is taking your vehicle to a car wash facility. These facilities are required by law to be connected to sanitary sewer systems so that the dirty water can be treated at a wastewater treatment plant. They are also required to recycle the used water and typically use significantly less water than a continuously running residential hose. However, if you prefer to wash your car at home, you should wash over a permeable surface, such as a gravel area or lawn, so that water will soak into the ground where pollutants can be filtered and broken down rather than flowing into a storm drain. Water from an occasional car wash won't hurt your yard or lawn, but it will reduce polluted runoff to our streams and will water your lawn at the same time. Consider using biodegradable soaps. Biodegradable soaps are designed to break down in the soil through actions of soil organisms, so will not readily break down in water. Even these, though, should not be allowed to flow into the stormwater system, nor should any chemical, oil, and other fluid resulting from home car maintenance. Anything that enters the storm sewer system will flow directly into a local stream. Please dispose of these and any other household chemicals properly. Both DEP and EPA have some good resources on disposing of and reducing household chemicals. And PA Resources Council holds several collection events at different locations around the area. Remember, there's a lot of homeowners in the world, and if we all make improvements to our properties, we can improve stream health and reduce the impacts of stormwater downstream. We hope that you enjoyed our stream health and stormwater series and will take action to protect and improve the stream health in your local watershed. As we previously mentioned, we will be sending a follow-up email with additional resources and the evaluation survey for the series. Please give us your feedback on the series and other topics we can help educate folks about. and we'll address any questions.
Thanks, Amy and Rebecca. We had a couple of questions come in into the chat during the presentation. The first question is, for reference, about how often do we get a half-inch rainstorm?
You know, I'm not sure how often. I know that in our region, we get roughly, our average rainfall is about 38 inches. And I think per rainfall, the average is about a quarter inch. But I'm not sure the frequency of half-inch storms. But as you know, regardless, storm surges, powerful rainfall are increasing based on personal experiences. So I think last year we were up to 50 inches of rain total in our area.
Thanks for that. So this is kind of a question that is along the same lines. With climate change, we're getting more intense storms. Is there any concern as to the sizing of drains leading to rain gardens, oversizing the drains to the gardens to allow overflowing?
Yeah, I mean, we always recommend putting in under drains, which will increase your infiltration. As far as the size, I mean, we're not particularly designers, so you might want to ask somebody like Stormworks that question. They'd probably be able to answer that more thoroughly.
Are you able to speak to the overflow pipe and any suggestions for a minimum diameter?
Again, I think that's a specific design question, and I think you're better off asking more of an expert that question.
Here is another question. Do you have any information on the rain or stormwater tax to landowners and what that's based on?
So for clarification, we want to make sure we're using the term stormwater fee because a fee applies to everybody, including property owners that are normally exempt, including schools and religious institutions. And I think what you're asking is how is the fee based, and it's based off of something equivalent residential unit. Is that right, Amy?
Yeah, it's called an ERU. So they take I think they take the average size of impermeable surface on an average lot, and that becomes the ERU, and then based on the number of ERUs you have, that's how they calculate your fee.
All right, we had someone ask, can a municipality use this webinar video on their website and run it on their TV studio for their residents?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll have this available on our website in the near future. So wherever it goes based after that is fine with us.
And our last question is, how far out from a stream bank should a riparian buffer extend?
So there's a lot of discussion about that.
Yeah.
Basically, as far out as as wide as you can. Typically, we recommend 20 to 30 feet, but not everybody has that. So, even if it's 5 to 10 feet, that's better than nothing.
If there are any more questions, you can put them in the chat box now. Otherwise, I think that will conclude our Stream Health and Stormwater series. All right.